Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships and healing from these relationships. Let's take on a question that's vexing so many of you. Why do so many people in narcissistic relationships think they're narcissistic? So let's take this one on, okay? So this is something that has come up so often that it's getting to the point that when I do encounter someone who says, hey doc, I suspect I may be narcissistic, I gotta say, it's often a coin flip on whether this person is having actual insight on having real issues with narcissism or whether it's a person who is in a narcissistic relationship who has been told that they are narcissistic so many times, or because they've expressed a feeling or a need or a want, was told they're entitled or greedy or whatever, that they start to think that it may be true. So let's break this down characteristic by characteristic of narcissism to understand why some of what might be happening here. So let's start with lack of empathy, right? For lots of survivors of narcissistic relationships, there is the belief that you are not being empathic because you are starting to lose patience with them, or you lost it a long time ago. That you don't care about their painful backstory or their excuses or their bad day. You start feeling that you don't care, and that makes you wonder, maybe I'm the one who is not empathic. People sometimes think, I can't believe that I believe that someone I'm supposed to love or feel a sense of duty for example, believing a parent or a family member is narcissistic, that you believe that you're a bad person, that you're somehow lacking in empathy because you could think that something is devaluing as this about someone that you're not supposed to think this way about because you're supposed to love them, right? Interestingly, in my culture, I was raised in a South Asian home by parents from South India. And it's sort of a weird, like a cultural thing. When you said something about someone that wasn't perfect or admiring, or certainly anything in the neighborhood that was sort of judgmental, or certainly implying that a family member is narcissistic, the translation of what we would say, or what my mother would say, was that you got to give yourself a slap if someone else said it. So like if you said it, I would say, oh, you got to give yourself a slap. Or if the person themselves, like if I said the bad thing about someone, then I would actually do a gesture like this. I'd slap my own face. So I'd actually keep talking smack like, oh, she is such a B word and blah, blah. I just keep slapping myself, right? And that's to show the shame of saying something like that. It's so hardwired in me that I still do it when I'm in my cultural group. I'll gossip and I'll just be doing this. My mother does it all the time. She gossips and she slaps her own face. So this is what I'm saying. This is pretty much watch my family, and this is how we're talking to each other. So it is any wonder that people globally who are in these relationships, because once you get it, you have to believe something that isn't nice, that you feel that you're the one without empathy, right? Or if you don't fall for the future faking, or if you call their behavior out, in all of these cases, you will be told that you're the bad one who doesn't have empathy, right? So let's go to the second characteristic, entitlement. Oh my, if you actually share your needs or feelings or wants or hopes or ideas or beliefs, you will be shut down almost right away. In one of these relationships, you may be called selfish, greedy, needy, demanding, ungrateful, and yes, entitled. Basically, if you want to be treated at an equal level to them, they will regard that as you having hubris, because obviously you can't be on equal footing with them. How dare you? But over time, if you hear that your needs are selfish, if you hear that enough times, and that you are entitled for wanting a relationship to be equitable or balanced, again, if you hear it enough, you keep hearing that you're entitled, you may start to believe it. So then let's take on the excessive need for admiration and validation. Wanting admiration and validation are normal. We want our work, our accomplishments, and our ideas to be recognized. It feels good to be admired. In narcissism, we're talking about an excessive need for admiration and validation. The need for praise is constant. A narcissistic person often doesn't like it when someone else is being recognized and will either sulk or walk away. But they expect everything they do to be accorded disproportionate praise and regard. So that means that if you are having a good moment and you want to share it with people, maybe you decide to put it on social media, maybe they hear you talk about it, maybe you tell them about it, they will do things like roll their eyes and they may tell you, wow, you sure do need a lot of props to feed your ego. You may just be sharing something matter-of-factly, and it is simply the people around you are actually getting excited for you. They may be inquisitive about it. Again, over time, in a narcissistic relationship, you may actually feel nervous about sharing anything that happened for fear of this inaccurate characterization. But because anytime you share something about yourself that may attract praise or congratulations, it will often be characterized by the narcissistic people as you being egotistical and needing admiration. You may believe that is who you are and completely button up about sharing anything about yourself because of that characterization of it. Families are notorious for doing this. In a narcissistic family system, the thought of anyone excelling or garnering praise outside of the narcissist is something that they will often shut down quickly, or they might make fun of you, or they might call you a bragger or a show-off, all of which may leave you wondering if you are the one who needs excessive praise. Then there's grandiosity. Well, this gets interesting. I actually take this on in the book too. Narcissistic people live in fantasy worlds that allow them to maintain a grandiose, perfectionistic, and idealized exterior. Why? It's designed to offset that insecure and shame-ridden interior. The grandiose narcissistic folks will spout off about their big dreams, though they sometimes do actually enact their big dreams. That's what's tricky with the grandiose folks. While the vulnerable narcissistic folks yammer on about their big dreams that everybody is standing in the way of coming true, and so you see failure to launch in them and big talk and nothing happening. That tends to be more the vulnerable pattern. But this means that for folks who are in narcissistic relationships, you actually may start judging yourself for having big dreams. They definitely will judge you for it. You may want to do something, write a book, open a business, go back to school, change careers, try to create a side hustle, whatever it is. And they may snicker at you and tell you, phew, you talk big. In the process of healing, I have witnessed many survivors feeling almost embarrassed and telling me, now that I'm disengaging from this narcissistic relationship, I sometimes think about whatever dream they have about pursuing. They think of finally pursuing it. And they will often shut themselves down and call themselves grandiose for wanting to do something that they had been thinking about doing for a while. Again, it's that internalization of the ways that you just trying to be you, even in the simplest ways, was characterized as grandiose or attention-seeking or ridiculous. But because of this, lots of folks in narcissistic relationships wonder if they are actually grandiose for wanting to pursue a dream, even though they are very measured in how they talk about it and share about it. Well, then there's selfishness. And this relates to how so many people in narcissistic relationships start thinking of themselves, like I said, as entitled, right? Remember, healing is about autonomy and individuation, giving yourself permission for living in your identity, developing your sense of authenticity. Well, that was always forbidden in the relationship. So if you thought about just spreading your own wings, being yourself, choosing things that matter to you, friends, activities, you would be branded as selfish. And perhaps not just by the narcissistic person, but by the enablers and all the others in the system. However, you try to bring yourself in, even if you express a dietary preference. Oh, you expect a vegan dish? Or you want to bring a vegetarian dish? How selfish of you, right? Anything that is not in line with the narcissistic person is often labeled or treated as selfish. So again, after hearing that repeatedly, so many folks in these relationships start regarding themselves as selfish. And in fact, when you talk about yourself, you may preface things with, "I hate to be selfish, but do you mind if I order what I want for dinner?" And you kind of look at them strangely and think, well, what else would you order? But over time, everyone in a narcissistic relationship, well, just unfortunately not the narcissist, but everyone who's ever been in a narcissistic relationship will grow to think of themselves as selfish. So when you start putting all these pieces together, you may hear this whole laundry list of narcissistic traits I just shared with you and wonder, oh no, that's me for all the reasons I just said. You might think you don't have empathy, or that you're entitled, or that you need admiration, or that you're grandiose and selfish. And you might have been told this too. Disentangling yourself from this takes time, because you start to realize that you are buying into their narrative for you and making it your own. Healing is a process of cleaning things off, in essence, power washing your soul, disentangling yourself from their narrative, and learning that you are likely not any of these things, but in fact told that you, simply being you, expressing yourself, having an aspiration or a dream, and seeing something clearly, the relationship, made you narcissistic. Not so fast. In a lot of the work I've done with folks, this disentangling takes time. So be patient with yourself. Healing is accurate self-appraisal, and breaking out of their distorted and projected narrative is an essential part of the process of taking yourself back. Are you narcissistic? No, because usually the people who are don't ask me that much about it. Hope that's helpful, and thanks again.